with is defining custom categories in the income, expenses, and savings section. To add a new custom category in any of these sections, you can simply unhide these prepared empty rows, define a category, and it automatically gets added to this table and will now be considered in all further calculations and worksheets. Every additional dollar in income that you plan for a month will increase the amount to be allocated in that same month. Just like in the income section, you can add as many custom expense categories as you need by using those prepared empty rows. The expenses section should cover both your needs, like housing, utilities, groceries, and also something like minimum loan payments, and your wants, like entertainment, fun, vacation, donations, and many more. Every dollar allocated to an expenses category will decrease the amount left to be allocated, so that after you have planned all your expenses, you know exactly how much will be left for your savings. The savings section can then be used for planning your contributions to both long-term savings, investments, or extra payments on debt, but also short-term savings ambitions in the form of sinking funds that help you to systematically save towards a future expense or down payment. The goal should be to plan the contributions based on your saving priorities until the amount left to be allocated is exactly zero, which means you now have a plan for every single dollar of disposable income and your budget plan for that month is completed. But in real life, not every month is the same, and for many categories, planning the exact same amount each month is not realistic. This template does not force you to create one static budget plan that has to be used for every month, but instead allows you to create a realistic multi-period budget plan on one single worksheet in basically no time. Let me show you how you can expand this budget plan for the whole year. In case all income positions will stay the same in each month, planning the remaining months is done in a second using the autocomplete handle. But if you have a bit more variety in your monthly income, so that for example you know there will be a level shift for your salary through a promotion, then you have an income category that you expect to stay on the same level each month, and a third income source you know will be different every single month. All of this can be accurately portrayed in your budget plan. For the expenses, you can plan regular expenses ahead just as easy. In case you have an expense category that will be paid only once a year or once a quarter, like insurances for example, you don't have to break it down into 12 equal monthly amounts, but you can budget the actual expense whenever it's expected to be paid. Obviously, there might be regular categories like clothing or medicine that in reality are a bit more volatile than other regular categories like for example rent. Yet, setting a fixed monthly budget for these positions will give you a good benchmark for each month in case you cannot exactly predict the distributions over the year. And finally, you can also have mixed categories like fun and vacation, for which you want to plan a base level each month for things like going out, eating in a restaurant, buying birthday gifts, etc. But in specific months, this amount will peak when you plan to go on vacation or plan to spend more money for gifts and celebrations around Christmas. Every expected variation of expenses over the year can be accurately represented in this budget plan. For the savings section, you can now plan the allocation of the remaining amount available in each month. Here it makes sense to plan ahead with accordance with your personal priorities. If, for example, your emergency fund is still 3,000 short of the amount that you feel safe with, you can prioritize that and allocate 1,000 for the first 3 months. Since the planned budget for this position goes to zero after that, you will have more capital available for other savings categories. Based on your priorities, you can then go through all further positions and decide if you want to have a constant amount allocated each month, if you want to increase a position once more money is available for saving, or even start allocating to a new category once you have additional free resources to do so. What's crucial in the end is that for each month you have a plan for every available dollar from your income streams, so that the amount left to be allocated is exactly zero, and the green check mark at the top is visible. When we jump to the dashboard worksheet, all the defined categories and planned budget amounts are instantly available. On the left side, you see a sorted breakdown of the categories that dynamically grows and shrinks as you add or remove categories in the budget planning sheet. On the right side, in the summary section, the tracked versus budget chart beautifully visualizes our budget plan over time and even allows you to single out two or one specific types. Moreover, using the drop-down at the top, you can easily switch between a total year view and monthly views of the budget plan. In the budget tracking sheet, you can then start tracking your actual money flows in this smart table. For a new entry, you simply need to enter the according date, select the type as either income, expenses, or savings, and then based on which type you have selected, all the previously defined categories of that type will become selectable in that category dropdown. Finally, you can enter the amount as an absolute number and enter the details for that record. Whatever type you select, the category dropdown will always automatically adjust its list of values. As you add records for different types, you will notice that the amounts are automatically formatted to visually differentiate between income on the left and the allocation of income to either expenses or savings on the right. When we add the dashboard breakdown in split view, you can perfectly see how every new record instantly updates the respective tracked amount of that period. In that breakdown, the categories are automatically sorted by tracked amount as the primary and budgeted amount as the secondary sorting criterion. And you always instantly know which percentage of the budgeted amount you have already tracked and how much of the budget is still remaining for each category and type. The balance column will always keep track of all the tracked money flows up until the date of the respective record. A positive or negative amount in that tracking balance column should be reflected in the main bank account through which your money flows from income to expenses and savings. This balance is calculated in a way that is completely robust against any sorting or filtering in the table. That means you can easily add a new record that chronologically should be placed right before these existing records. The balance of this new record and all later records is still calculated correctly. We can then bring this record to the chronologically correct position by sorting the date column from oldest to newest. And anytime you want to take a closer look at certain transactions in a specific period, for example the expenses only sorted by amount, you can easily do that, and the integrity of the balance calculation based on each individual date is still guaranteed. The effective date column right next to that is responsible for another great optional feature that solves a real issue for many people when it comes to tracking their income. Because for many people it's the usual case to receive their income, for example in the form of a paycheck, rather towards the end of a month instead of the beginning of a month. And if that's the case for you, you might want to treat that income not as the income to make up for all the previously tracked expenses and savings in that same month, but rather in a forward-looking way as the disposable income for the next month. So that you first earn it and then you spend it and save it, and not the other way around. If that is something you want to apply, you can simply jump to the settings worksheet and activate the late monthly income option. For which you can also specify the day in each month from which on-tracked income is considered for the next month. So with 20 in here, every tracked income with the date of the 20th or later in a month is assigned to the next month. Just another great feature to better cope with the realities of life. After entering all data to bring your budget planning and tracking up to date, so that the lag between your latest record and the current date is as small as possible, the budget dashboard is a great place to understand, analyze, and evaluate your personal budget performance. With the current month as the selected period, you can take a look at how much of that month has already passed in order to better evaluate the percentage of your budgeted amount that you have tracked so far for each type and category. In addition, the period tracking balance shows you exactly how much of your tracked disposable income is still left to be allocated in that month. And down here, that balance value is then perfectly broken down into the remaining budget amounts and the amounts that have exceeded the budget by type and category. Over here in this tracked versus budget chart, your tracked budget performance for the income, expenses, and savings in that current month is visualized and highlighted, with an exact breakdown by category for the income, the expenses, and the savings in these beautiful circular charts. To analyze your budget performance for a completed month, you can select that month's name in this period dropdown and then conduct a conclusive evaluation of where you have under or overperformed against the expectations from your budget plan. On a higher level, you can take a look at the total income, expenses, and savings numbers, and then dive deeper to identify which categories have been the driving factors into one or the other direction. If you want to analyze the individual transactions for a specific category in a given period to better understand the overall category performance, you can display the budget tracking sheet in split view right next to the breakdown, then filter down these records to the respective period and category, and then simply sort by amount to identify the main contributors. Back in the dashboard, you can also find the savings rate of that completed period up here. And in addition, you now have the opportunity to analyze the exact distribution of the track categories for the income, expenses, and savings now that you know that every transaction for that month has been included. As we go through the different months, you'll notice how the savings rate, category distributions, and the overall budgeted and tracked amounts can be highly volatile. For that reason, the total year view provides a way more evened out and thus significant representation of basically every insight in this dashboard. In this total year view, any single category can now be evaluated against the period progress even better, as the exact day of a single record within a month has way less impact on these percentage numbers when compared to a monthly view. While in this total year view most visuals display aggregated numbers over all months, the tracked versus budget chart still breaks down the tracked and budget amounts by month and lets you easily explore the development of income, expenses, and savings over time. For comparing the development of only two types or exploring the development of one specific type, this chart allows you to fully customize which types to display with a few simple clicks. In addition, for a pure focus on the tracked amounts only, you can hide the light-colored budget values at any time. With the tracked amounts for every category aggregated over the total year, these category distribution charts now provide even more meaningful insights about the composition of your money flows, since one-time and periodical effects within single categories are getting leveled out over a longer period of time. And eventually, this total year view is also the one view that gives you the most significant indication about your actual savings rate, because while this savings rate might heavily fluctuate between single months, and that is it for this tutorial.